I'm going to show you how to prepare the discs, to wash them, to clean them to get them ready to put the new samples on. So I have here some discs which have been used and they have to be cleaned. And these are just, this here is a disc holder that I'm going to use to wash the discs. And when I finish putting all the discs in, I'm going to assemble it just like that and screw it on, okay? But, and as you can see, I've done most of them for the moment. But I have some discs here which still have to be prepared, and I'm just going to show you how to prepare them to insert them into the disc holder to be washed. So I've got a little piece of cotton here, and you could also use Q-tips, which might work a bit better, I suppose, but I don't have them at the moment, or a very soft tissue, which is fine. You just don't want to use a cloth which is hard, which will scrape the surface of the glass. Here I have my Milli-Q water, and some people use acetane. But I'm using Milli-Q water, which is just fine. So I'm just spraying the surface, a tiny drop on the surface of the disc, especially where the sample was before, the previous sample was. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking the little cotton wool and just rubbing it a little bit and trying to see where the previous sample was and just remove it. And then I'll take the dry cotton wool and just dry it off a little bit and just put this down on the tissue to dry. And then I'm going to do the same thing with all of the discs here. This cotton wool is already wet, so I don't need to wet it again. You don't really need to do the back, I'm just doing that. But obviously you don't want to have large bits of dust or anything on the back either. That would contaminate the solution. Okay, just go on like that until you finish them. And just do the last two really quickly and see if you can. Sometimes you have to rub the surface a little bit in order to get off the bit where the sample was. Okay. So actually this cotton wool is not the best to use. If you can find one which doesn't leave too many bits of cotton on the surface, it's better. But anyways, when you're finished, just give them blow them off as best you can. Okay, so now I'll just finish putting these last discs into the sample holder. I'm just putting them straight in like that. Some people like to put them in all facing the same direction or in order of number, but it doesn't really matter. If you like to do that, that's fine. Now I'm putting the little plastic disc on top of the sample holders. You see this little hole that lines up with this piece, and putting the holder, the handle, and screwing on the handle. Okay, so now I have my samples in the sample holder, and I can lift it up like that. And if you have some of the discs are still a little bit wet, they'll drip. And now you put them in your clean beaker. This is the beaker that I had used the last time for washing the discs, and I'm using the same one again, so it's already clean on the inside. Okay, cut for the moment. I've just finished putting all the discs into this disc holder, and I've put it into my clean beaker, and I'm just setting it down on the in the hood, under the chemical hood for the moment. Now I've brought out these three solutions to show you which ones they are. Actually, this is Milli-Q water, which is simply a bottle which we're using to collect Milli-Q water in. This is actually a bottle which is not acetone, or it's just, it contains actually RBS 50 solution 5%, diluted with milky water, and we're just using this bottle even though it's not the original bottle. And this is my nitric acid, 10%. I've just got over here just a plastic beaker so that I can dump out the milky water that I've used to rinse the discs in without having to go over to the sink. You could just go over to the sink and dump them, but it's convenient to have it directly under the hood. Now, I've just finished wiping off the individual discs and putting them in here. So, before I start, I'm just going to start off with the milky water and give the whole disc holder and the discs just a quick rinse, just in case there's some bits of cotton wool that have gotten stuck on somewhere, or just some dust fell in the beaker. I mean, just to get rid of some of the things like that. And I just put a little bit of water in and shake it around, and then trying to get all the discs wet. And then I'll just take that out for a minute, let it drip off, and just dump the water out here. And I'll just do that a second time, because we don't want to start off the cleaning process already with the discs having some dust in there. Just be plenty generous with the water. It doesn't really, it's just milky water. It's not that cheap, but you know, if you have to repeat the cleaning process because the discs didn't come out clean, it's more of a pain. So you might as well just waste a bit of milky water. And now I'm putting the water back on top of the discs. Okay. Yep. Doesn't matter if this drips out here, it's just water, so don't worry if you get the hood wet. Okay, so now I'm going to put the discs on this heating plate here, and just place them on top. I've already got it set to about 60 or 70 degrees. And now I'm taking the RBS solution, which is in the bottle here. Oh, the other thing to say, it's very important. I actually have preheated the milky water and the RBS solution to 60 degrees Celsius in the oven. So they're already warm when I'm using them, because now we're going to pour the RBS solution on top of the discs, and we have to let them stay 5 minutes at 60 degrees. If I start off with the solution that's room temperature, obviously I would have to wait a bit longer. So if I've just put the solution, if I knew that I was going to wash the discs this afternoon, I would just put them in, maybe the solutions in before lunch, just so that they could warm up, and then I can really respect the 5-minute time. If I'm starting off with room temperature solutions, I would recommend that instead of 5 minutes, you just wait 10 minutes, or at least you wait till they're warm. And okay, so now I'm going to put this cover on top of the beaker so that it doesn't evaporate, just to prevent too much evaporation, and from any dust from falling onto the discs by chance, by accident. So okay, we'll just wait 5 minutes, and then I'll show you the next step.
Così?
Ah, ok, va bene.
Ok, sta andando.
Okay, so now 5 minutes is up, and as you can see, the solution has made a bit of condense on the bottom of the cover there. So I'm actually going to recycle the solution, the RBS solution. So I'll just put it back in the original bottle. I mean the bottle that I'm using. So I'll just put it up like that. Just let the drips not fall down, but just pour it back in. And the solution is a little bit warm now, of course, but it's not extremely hot, and it's not boiling, which is the essential point. Okay, so I'll just put that back in there for a minute and set it down here, and cover this back up. Oh, before I went to get want to get the original bottle. So basically this RBS solution is prepared from this bottle and it's diluted to 5%. So that's where the solution came from. Okay, so we don't need this anymore. So I'll just put this back here. Now, the next step is to do the nitric acid. But first of all, I want to give the discs a good rinse before I put in nitric acid so you can remove all the little traces of the detergent RBS solution. So I'll just first of all give them a quick rinse with a warm milky water and just shake around the water like that and turn the discs a bit. Try to get all the discs wet. Okay, and then I'll just dump that milky water out into my beaker over here. And I'll just give them another rinse, a second time. With a bit more water perhaps this time. I'm also just making sure that if any of the traces of RBS have stayed on the walls of the beaker, I'm trying to get that off as well. Okay. In theory, you could use 3 beakers to do this process, but it's really difficult actually to get a beaker that is really clean. So once you've got a really clean beaker, it's just easier to wash between the steps rather than using different beakers, which you might be introducing more contamination and stuff. So I prefer to do it this way. Okay, now I'm just going to do, since I really like to be precise, I'm just going to do a last rinse. And I'm actually going to leave this rinse on the heating unit for about 5 minutes, as we did with the RBS solution. So I'll just place that back on there. I'm just shaking it to get out the bubbles that were created. I'll just put the cover back on. Okay, and let that stay for about 5 minutes, still at 60-70 degrees Fahrenheit, Celsius, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay, go.
Okay, so the discs have now been rinsing in milky water for 5 minutes after the original detergent wash in RBS solution. So now we'll just pick them up and dump out the water. Get any extra drops there. We'll just place them directly back onto the heating plate. And now I'm going to add the nitric acid 10%. So now we're moving on to the only step which is actually a little bit, you have to be a bit more careful of. And obviously I'm working under the chemical hood. The previous steps, it wasn't really important, but this step is obviously important. And I've got my gloves on and my lab coat on, so I'm protected. Now, I have not preheated the nitric acid. I had preheated the RBS solution in the milky water, but I'm not preheating the nitric acid. I don't really feel that it's a good idea. And also, this nitric acid will be staying on, the disc will be bathing in the nitric acid for 2 hours, and they'll have plenty of time to reach 60 or 70 degrees. So we don't need to preheat the nitric acid. Okay, so just pour them in. Pour that in. Oh my goodness. That was a mistake. Don't do that. Now I'm just pouring in enough to cover the discs very well. And there's a little bit left in the bottle, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Let's cover that back up again. And I'll put the cover on. Okay. Now this is the longest incubation period. We have to wait 2 hours for it to finish. And if you're really in a hurry, you can reduce that to like 1 hour and 40 minutes or something. That's okay. I've done that sometimes when I was really in a hurry, and it works quite well. But if you're not in a hurry and everything's just going fine, just leave it for the full 2 hours. Okay, so we'll be back in 2 hours to do the next thing.